Hello and welcome to my humble channel. My name's Christian, but I go by Kritigri as a general internet pseudonym. I'll go a little bit deeper into the specific series that this channel has in a minute, but very quickly just to let you know, this channel focuses on two main things: gameplay and talking about video games, and audio commentary stuff where I talk about shows I've watched or books I've read, stuff like that. My thumbnails are colour coordinated, so you should be able to figure out what kind of video you want to watch as it comes out live. I do also have a channel dedicated to VODs from live streaming, which I occasionally do, and a whole bunch of other stuff like social media, but that's tertiary. You can find that if you want it on the channel. For the meantime though, let's go through what I have here. The Weekly Waypoint is kind of a hallmark of a channel. It's a series I've been running for years on end without missing a week. I don't know when you'll be watching this video, could be a couple of years from now. I'll be sure to update it if it ever changes, but from when I'm recording, we're 171 episodes in and I haven't missed a week, and it basically focuses on me talking about my week, usually focusing on video games that I've played or that I'm looking forward to, or news in the general video game industry, or shows that I've watched or stuff like that. It's not a thoughts on, it's more of a topical thing of what I've been doing during the week. The general idea is that it's you kind of check in and you go, oh hey, how's Christian doing this week? If you watch nothing else, you might want to watch that. I personally love making it because it's kind of a video diary that I can look back on. I can say, hey, what was I up to this time last year? And because gaming is such a major part of my life, I can kind of see what I was up to a year ago today. These videos have gameplay in the background, which may or may not be relevant to the topic I'm discussing at hand, but the commentary on these videos is post-commentary. It's not done live, so that I can actually focus on stopping and starting and talking about what I want to talk about, like I'm doing right now. It's the only video I currently do with a red border around it. Next we've got my purple bordered videos, which are typically videos themed around little edited gameplay clips that I've put together and put into a video, and we've got various forms of those videos. Adventures in, with, or as, or something shenanigans, typically compilations of 30-second video clips taken from natural gameplay, edited down to be snappy or to include edited jokes. They're often split into separate series such as Adventures in Tamriel, Adventures with Pokémon, Minecraft shenanigans, and stuff like that. This specific series focuses on journeys through persistently revisited worlds such as MMOs or franchises that I love. It can include multiplayer content or it can include solo content, but typically these are the games that I play week in and week out, and as a person I'm the kind of person who plays a game for maybe like a month and I like fixate on it and then like I drop it, but then I'll typically revisit that game if I really like it like a few months down the line. So for instance, Elder Scrolls Online, currently don't feel like playing that game, but in a month or two it might be all I think about, and these style of videos kind of reflect that. Next up, Kritigri jumps or Kritigri delves, blasts, zooms, any kind of adjective like that. These are compilations of 30-second video clips taken from natural gameplay, edited down to be snappy or to include edited jokes just like before, but they were created to diversify the channel from a surplus of what I used to call miscellaneous shenanigans videos, which do still exist but are now rarer. These series are genre specific, so for instance, Kritigri Jumps will contain videos focused on Crash Bandicoot, or Spyro the Dragon, or Super Mario, or, you know, any of those. The goal is to have about one video per game, but in a pinch, videos may contain multiple games. I'll put little time codes in the description if they do. They will not be numbered, unlike previous videos, as these games don't contain a sequential narrative. So for instance, when I'm doing Adventures in Eorzea, I'll want to number those videos because it's me experiencing a Realm Reborn, Heavensward, all of a Final Fantasy XIV kind of like story, and you don't want to jump into a random one in the middle. But with these, it doesn't really matter because maybe the fourth Kritigri Jumps I make will be my first video in, I don't know, like Dead Cells or something, whereas, you know, my second video could have been like my second video in Spyro. That's not how it's going to play out, but you get what I mean. And finally, in the purple series of videos, we've got Blind Ventures, which again, compilations of 30-second video clips taken from natural gameplay, edited down to be snappy or to include edited jokes. These series focus on my first impressions or playthroughs of games, especially narrative-driven games, so Final Fantasy XII, Final Fantasy X, it's mostly Final Fantasies at the moment of recording. It differentiates from genre videos for a focus on reacting to story beats and gameplay quirks. Essentially, if I approach a game with the attitude of let's see what this is all about, then it turns into a Blind Ventures video. Next up are my Let's Plays, which as I'm recording this are still pretty early. I've finished one and the other's kind of on hold, but in concept, Let's Plays are traditional Let's Play style videos which focus on showing all the gameplay of a game. They're usually 20 to 30 minutes long, and they have live commentary focusing on talking about that game, and I don't really have a line I've drawn as to whether they're going to be blind playthroughs or whether they're going to be playthroughs of games I already love. but the general guidelines I've set for myself is if it's a game I already love, it can be basically any game as long as I love it and I know it inside and out and I'm kind of showing you the game. But if it's not, if it's a blind playthrough, then it's going to be a fairly simple game. I'm not going to do a blind playthrough of a massive RPG because I don't want to be stumbling through figuring out how to learn all of these things and whether I'm even going to enjoy it or not. Like if it's something like a platforming game which I can look at and go, yeah, that looks fun, I'll probably enjoy that, then I might do a blind let's play on it. Next up is the other major type of videos we have on this channel, which I typically umbrella as my thoughts on style videos. They're the videos you're going to see with a green background behind them. So first of all, we have just the named Thoughts On videos, which are an audio-based commentary series where I discuss my thoughts on a season of a show, or a movie. It could be a movie as well, or in rare cases some sort of gaming news event or something. But hey, these went under much iteration, from recording thoughts for every episode to recording thoughts for an entire show at the end. But the balance of recording thoughts for a single season of a show feels about right. The series is recommended for shows I'm experiencing for the first time, so I'm not typically going to do a thoughts on of a show that I've already seen. This is going to be, hey, this is what I thought about Castlevania the first time I watched through it, you know? Although that's not a good example because that's actually when I tried to do the entire 4-season show in one video, which I don't actually think turned out great. Next up is Thoughts Per Episode, which is very similar, and again an audio-based commentary series where I discuss my thoughts on a season of a show, but this time on an episode-by-episode basis. This show must be something I've already seen, so the general idea is to dissect something that I already love. It has previously been used for first impressions, like Buffy and Angel, but I'm kind of shelving that for now, and going forwards it will be used for things that I already know, like Doctor Who or Game of Thrones, where I really want to go through and be like, hey, in this episode this happened, and in this episode this happened. So for instance, Doctor Who, it's like Monster of the Week style stuff, so I think that would fit that very well. Game of Thrones is just so packed full of story that I think it needs an episode for an episode, or maybe not an episode for an episode, but you know, a section of an episode to dedicate to each individual episode rather than talking about it as a whole. Now for books I do something slightly different. I call it Blurble Reasoning, which is a title I put to a poll and people voted for that one, even though it was kind of a joke one, but that's what it's called now. So it's an audio-based commentary series where I discuss my thoughts on a book, an audiobook, or a volume of manga. It's typically based on a first-time reaction as opposed to breaking down a reread of a series, but it can also be used for that. So I've been reading through the Wheel of Time series, and even as this video is a year old, by the time you're watching it I'm probably still reading through the Wheel of Time series because my god, that's a long series. But I felt like differentiating the books from the shows and the movies when it came to just calling it a thoughts on. I don't really remember why, it just felt like a good idea at the time, but we're too far in to change that now. And finally we have my newest style of video, which is What Blank Means to Me. At the time of recording, I've only done one, it's based on Bleach. What Blank Means to Me is an audio-based commentary series where I discuss a world or franchise which means a lot to me at the height of my fixation. So as I discussed before, I tend to fixate on things and get really obsessed with them and then not care about them. I drop them and I don't care about them for months at a time. So it doesn't have to be specifically about games or episodes or something quantifiable, but more of a coherent ramble about why I love it, how I discovered it, and why I keep coming back to it. There's no schedule for these, it's just a platform for me to discuss something I love when I'm as deep into it as I've ever been. So for instance, the recent Bleach one I didn't care about Bleach for like 6 years, the manga ended, and then I was like, okay, let's pack it in. But there's been news recently about the anime returning, and about there's going to be a new manga chapter and stuff soon, so I started thinking about it again, and that kind of reignited my love for the series, and I just had all of these thoughts about it which I wanted to get out there, but I couldn't do in like I didn't want to do a reread of a manga or a rewatch of a show because it's so bloody long. I just wanted to talk about why I loved it, so that's why I created that series, and I will definitely be making more of those in the future for all sorts of things. Anyway, that's about what's on this channel at the minute. There might be new stuff by the time you're watching this. Hopefully I'll make updated versions of this video by then, but my god, this was meant to be very quick and it ended up being more than 9 minutes long, so thank you for your interest. Hopefully you find something you like, and hopefully I will see you in one of my future videos.